Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. Mordor. If you've ever been curious what it was like for Sam and Frodo to carry the ring into Mordor and ascend to the fires of Mount Doom, you need only travel to New Zealand. Mordor is a real place in Tongariro National Park. The mountain on the northern side of the park is called Mount Nauruhoe. Fans of the Lord of the Rings films will recognize the mountain as Mount Doom. The park itself was founded in 1887. It's the fourth oldest national park in the world and a protected UNESCO heritage site. Although it was used as the backdrop for Mordor, it isn't nearly as gloomy as the movie made it seem. The volcano can be hiked as part of a day trip. Instead of orcs and servants of Sauron, you can come across mineral springs, bubbling waterfalls, and stunning lakes hidden in the mountains.
But it isn't easy. To reach Mount Doom, you have to scale the side of the volcano to a whopping altitude of about 7,000 feet.
The hike is called the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, and it can take anywhere from 7 hours to a full day, depending on skill level. All around the Alpine Pass is the sweeping Rangipo Desert. It's beautiful but gives off the appearance of a wasteland. This is exactly why it was used as Mordor in the films. It's an empty, vast, and desolate landscape, but if you really want to follow in the footsteps of the hobbits, a climb to the top of the mountain is necessary. Number 9. King's Landing. Dubrovnik is one of the most fantastic cities to visit in Croatia. The ancient city was originally called Ragusa when it was founded in the 7th century. Coastal residents were fleeing from the advancing armies of the barbarians and needed a stronghold to defend themselves. The city was initially protected by huge defensive walls. As its stability increased, the city grew in size. With its proximity to the Islamic world and Western Europe, Dubrovnik became a kind of crossroads of civilizations.
These days, Dubrovnik is a medieval paradise. It looks like a city straight out of Game of Thrones. But in reality, Dubrovnik truly is like many cities from Game of Thrones. There are no less than 15 film locations all along the coastline of Dubrovnik, right on the water.
These are all easily walkable within just a few hours. You don't even have to leave the beauty of the sea to feast your eyes on some of the most famous places in the HBO series. Because Dubrovnik was used to shoot pretty much everything in King's Landing, Blackwater Bay, Karth, and the Red Keep. Number 8. Hogwarts. 60 miles from London is the city of Oxford. It was here where many of the most famous scenes in the Harry Potter franchise were filmed. It's no surprise because Oxford is filled with Gothic architecture and remnants of medieval England. Many of the halls of Hogwarts and its great rooms are various places in Oxford.
For example, the Christ Church, a monastery founded in the 8th century. The church cloisters were used to film a whole ton of scenes in Hogwarts where Harry and the gang hang out and discuss ongoing events.
Christ Church is one of the major inspirations for Hogwarts' many locations. Their dining hall, while it wasn't used in the filming, was the inspiration behind the Great Hall. That's where the sorting hat comes out to pick which student goes into which house. Photographs of the ancient hall were used by the studios when they created their own version in London. The Divinity School in Oxford was used as the Hogwarts Infirmary. Duke Humphrey's Library was used as Hogwarts Library. The new college courtyard was used as one of Hogwarts' courtyards. Oxford really is the closest place on Earth you can get to being in the wizarding world without going to Universal Studios. And now for number 7. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to TazMike46 and Livia Robinson for supporting this channel. Thanks, guys! Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. Number 7. The Overlook Hotel.
When Stephen King sat down to write The Shining, long before Stanley Kubrick ever thought of making it into a movie, he used the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park as inspiration.
King checked into the hotel in 1973 for a single night alongside his wife Tabitha. It was a beautiful night. The stars were out, and the hotel was extraordinarily creepy. They were way out in the Colorado wilderness, far from the business of the world in the Rocky Mountain National Park. There was almost nobody in the hotel during King's stay. He and his wife had the run of the place. The silent and eerie aura of the hotel inspired King to write a story about it, and that would become the basis for Stanley Kubrick's film years later. The Stanley Hotel was turned into the Overlook Hotel. But what's really shocking is that King's story wasn't altogether fantasy. The Stanley Hotel, which opened in 1909, is indeed a secluded mountain resort, one that is apparently filled with the spirits of the dead. In 1911, housekeeper Elizabeth Wilson was electrocuted during a lightning storm. It happened in room 217, the same room in which Stephen King supposedly stayed during his brief visit. The room has been connected to paranormal activity for over a century. There may not be any sinister events or cases of mass murder, but the hotel does supposedly have a strong paranormal atmosphere in some of the rooms. Some guests even claim they see ghosts. Since Mr. Stanley's death in 1940, he's been seen by countless people as a phantom haunting the reception desk. The ghost of Flora Stanley is often seen tickling the keys of the piano in the empty music room. Would you spend a night at the Overlook Hotel? Let me know in the comments. Number 6. Spirited Away. The mountain city of Dubrovnik is one of the most magical places in the world. The city was built on the edge of a mountain overlooking the sea. It's a dreamy place with tight avenues and crowded tea houses. There is a rich aroma of hot food from the street vendors and the glow of red lanterns in the evening. Taiwan's Dubrovnik is an enchanting place and the inspiration behind one of the most beloved animations ever made. 90 minutes from the city of Taipei is a one-of-a-kind tea house that inspired Hayao Miyazaki's fantasy animation Spirited Away. Spirited Away is one of the few animated features to win an Oscar. The movie tells the magical story of a young girl being taken into a spirit world where the main location is a mesmerizing bathhouse. It was the Amei Tea House which inspired the design. The building stands at the peak of Dubrovnik like the town's crown. In the night, the glow of its red lanterns and golden lights shine down on the crooked streets. It's an ancient place that used to be a blacksmith shop. It's also the closest you can come to being inside a Studio Ghibli film. Number 5. Tatooine. The southern desert of Tunisia is the closest you'll ever get to being in a Star Wars movie. Tunisia's desert is one of the harshest places in the world, which explains why George Lucas used it as the backdrop for the desert world of Tatooine in the epic Star Wars space fantasy franchise. Tatooine is the birthplace of Luke Skywalker, a desert world with twin suns. It's also home to the Sand People. Mark Hamill, the actor who played Luke Skywalker, once said being in Tunisia really did feel like he was on another planet. He said that if he could ignore the film crew, concentrate on the horizon, and embrace the desert, it really did feel like he was transported to another world in a galaxy far, far away. George Lucas was going to name the desert city Utapau before he learned the name was very similar to a character in Star Trek. Instead, he named the planet after the Tunisian city of Tatooine. He even used the ancient Berber homes and greeneries around Tatooine for film locations. You can still see many of these ancient sites today, still being used by the semi-nomadic Berber tribes. These people were forced into the hills of Tunisia in the 11th century when their home was invaded. They built houses from the rocks, which later became the backdrop for Darth Vader's homeland. Number 4. Isla Nublar. On the island of Kauai is a beautiful paradise known as the Keahua Arboretum Kauai. It's in the center of the island where the weather is a little cooler and the beach is a little more peaceful. There is a stream that runs through the arboretum and there are very few people. It's quiet with the park full of rainbow eucalyptus trees and other native Hawaiian vegetation. It's kind of like being in your own personal Garden of Eden. You might even say it's kind of like being in a land before time, a primeval jungle. It feels like you're in a place untouched by humans, somewhere that a dinosaur might come stomping out of the forest. Many people who visit Kauai and the Arboretum have this exact same feeling. It's why the pristine forest has been used as inspiration for so many great movies. Avatar was shot here, and so was the original Jurassic Park. The Jurassic Park gate is still standing at the end of a dirt road about 3 miles beyond the Arboretum. In the original movie, when the group enters the park, they pass beneath a massive gate with flaming torches that says Jurassic Park. The gate itself isn't there anymore. There are only a pair of long poles jammed into the side of the road. but this is the place where the gate stood in the movie. It really makes you feel like you're driving down a worn dirt path on Isla Nublar on your way to see some dinosaurs. Have you ever been to Kauai? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe while you're at it. Number 3. Batman's Prison. In The Dark Knight Rises, one of the most epic installations of Batman ever, Bruce Wayne finds himself trapped in an underground prison. When you watch the movie, you don't think much about where the prison really is. But the people who made the movie certainly did. They chose the legendary Mehrangarh Fort in India as the location for the Dark Knight's imprisonment by Bane. The fortress is an ancient site in the city of Jodhpur. It's a beautiful complex spanning 1,200 acres. It has vast courtyards, multiple palaces, an entire museum, a turban gallery, and paintings from medieval India. The fortress stands 400 feet over the city and has been there since 1459. It was constructed by Rao Jodha, the ruler of Mandor. He had a magnificent military career and cemented his name in the history by founding Jodhpur. The fantastic fortress has 7 gates. It's full of dungeons and underground rooms, and although the original structure was built in the 15th century, most of what still stands was built in the 17th century. There is only one road that leads to the city below, like Batman's winding driveway through the forest to reach Wayne Manor. The fortress wasn't the inspiration behind the entire movie, but when it was decided Batman would be kept in a prison somewhere in a foreign land, the megalithic Mehrangarh Fort was chosen as the most suitable. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Number 2. Narnia. Elephant Rocks in New Zealand is part of the Waitaki Whitestone Geopark. The rocks here kind of look like sculpted elephants jutting out from a flat paddock. It took millions of years for the rocks to be weathered smooth and lifted from the earth. Some of them look like elephants, but others look like dogs, eagles, and other animals. There is even one rock that looks oddly like Winnie the Pooh. Elephant Rocks is also a vast landscape of fossils preserved within the limestone. It's a fantastic location that teleports you to another world. It's the otherworldliness of the landscape here that made it a part of the Narnia movies. In the original Chronicles of Narnia, Elephant Rocks was used as the film location for Aslan's camp. A visit here makes it feel like you've really stepped through the door into Narnia. The nearest town is Oamaru, a 40-minute drive. It's a historic town with white limestone and Victorian buildings. If the vast, unpopulated expanse of Narnia doesn't make you feel like you're in a fantasy, the ancient town of Oamaru certainly will. Number 1. The Tower of Joy. When Game of Thrones was on Season 6, the producers needed an extremely remote place for filming the Tower of Joy. It appears in 3 episodes and was an important location in the book series. The producers found exactly what they were looking for in Guadalajara, Spain. The Castle of Thafra was the perfect place to film the secrets of Ned Stark's young life. The castle is certainly remote. It was built in the 12th century on a sandstone outcrop in the middle of a great Spanish desert. A Visigoth structure originally stood on the site, likely during the Dark Ages. Then a Moorish fortification was built in the early Middle Ages. The Christians took back the area from the Moors in 1129 and transformed the meager fort into a castle. It was used as an impenetrable stronghold to monitor the no-man's land between the Christian part of Spain and the areas still controlled by Muslims. Unlike most medieval castles, Thafra Castle was never conquered. It defended itself valiantly against the King of Castile in the 13th century. Then it survived for another 200 years or so before it became old and outdated. The structure fell into ruin, but has slowly been restored since the 1970s. Its epic position in the middle of the windswept sand of Spain's interior made it one of the most awesome Game of Thrones filming locations. Thanks for watching! Which of these film locations shocked you the most? Or which one have you visited or would you like to? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!